Welcome to today's episode of Knit Your Stress Away. I am so glad that you're here today because we're diving into something that is truly life-changing, the mental benefits of knitting. And as much as you may know that knitting is there to create beautiful things, and that's a great benefit of it. It's one of my favorite reasons for this craft. But did you also know that it can work wonders for your mental well-being and for your stress levels and even sleep? It is actually scientifically proven, and it's so amazing. So today we're going to dive into some really amazing reasons why knitting can benefit your mental health, especially as a busy mama. So let's get started. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away. I am Nadine Medina, a mom who rediscovered knitting during a stressful season and found it to be the ultimate way to relax, recharge, and reconnect with myself. If you're feeling overwhelmed and wondering if there's a creative outlet that could actually help you feel calmer and in more control, you're in the right place. In this podcast, I'll show you how knitting can be a simple stress-busting tool, even if you've never picked up needles before. So take a deep breath, let go of the chaos for a moment, and let's explore how knitting could become your new favorite way to find calm and joy. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am Nadine Medina. I'm your host here on the Knit Your Stress Away podcast, and I am hoping to bring you a really fun episode with this one that finally convinces you that you need to pick up those needles, not only to create stuff, but also to feel better overall. And as moms, I'm assuming that most of you who are listening are moms like me, but we're pulled in so many directions. And that is whether we're working moms or stay-at-home moms, moms of one little one or moms of many, moms of little ones or teenagers like me. It doesn't matter. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed as a mom, and the stress can really pile up quickly, just as quickly as the laundry does, right? And finding ways to manage it is not always simple. And it's funny because oftentimes I feel like we're overthinking it too. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. What do I do? And, instead of just knowing what to do, we try to figure it out, and it adds to the stress. And I feel like once you found the thing that can really calm you down, that can pull you back, and ground you, you don't have to worry about what you need to do anymore. You just know it, and then you just do it when you need it. So this is where knitting comes in for me and for so many others. And I'm hoping that you have already started. We've got a lot of tools out there that can get you started. There's a cheat sheet out there that is free to download where you can just gather your tools and know exactly which ones you need. And then there's a guide that I have for you as well. It's only $17, and you can download that thing, you can watch videos, and you can actually start learning how to knit and complete a project. So gather those things for you so you can dive into the world of knitting and really, truly benefit from this amazing stress-busting creative outlet that it is. And to that point, it is not just a creative outlet. It's amazing for that. And I love the fact that it's such a creative outlet, and you don't even have to be creative. We talk about that at other times, and there's past episodes where we talked about the fact that you do not have to be a creative person in order to make knitting work for you and feel like you are the most creative person on the planet. But it's also a powerful tool for managing stress and anxiety. And it's sort of the reason why I started this whole podcast, because when I rediscovered knitting after over 20 years of not knitting back in 2020, I realized that I never knew about these amazing benefits, but they were totally working for me during that time and ever since. So in today's episode, I want to share 3 ways that knitting can boost your mental health and help you feel more grounded. Hopefully by the time of this short and sweet episode, you will see how knitting can calm your mind, lift your mood, and help you create a routine that brings more peace to your life. And if you didn't know this, but you are a knitter, then let me just promise you that you are going to love this craft even more than you probably already do. All right, so let's get started. The benefit number 1 is that knitting provides mindful focus. And why is that happening with knitting specifically? Because there's probably a ton of things that provide that, but knitting is like so unique when it comes to these things as it combines so many benefits together. But it's the power of mindful repetition. The first mental benefit is the ability, or the knitting ability, to provide mindful focus to you. The repetitive motion of knitting, and that could be either casting on or working on a super simple stitch, just having, the same stitch going over and over and over. But it allows you to focus on the present moment instead of being caught up in, how much more stuff you have to get done and, replaying some challenges that you're going through. You actually find yourself grounded in the rhythm of your stitches and in that moment, because yes, they may be coming easy to you after a while, but you still have to pay attention to it. So you're paying attention to something that repeats itself over and over and over. And that in itself can provide more focus and also more mindfulness. It's kind of like a meditation. It helps quiet racing thoughts, and it can keep you in the here and now, which is so key to reducing stress as a busy mom. Because when your brain is fully engaged in something soothing, like a repetitive stitch in your knitting project, it actually has less space for worry. And just saying that makes me feel so much calmer, because I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, we all want less space for worry, right? Like when you have a lot going on, it's just worry just kind of comes in automatically. So take your time, even if it's just a few minutes of knitting. It can create this sense of calm that can actually even last long after you put your needles back down. And it's actually really funny that this is the episode that I'm recording right now, because recently I've been busy between traveling and, just a lot of other stuff, my kids' school and such. I have had days where I did not pick up my needles. And it sounds crazy because I don't even remember the last time that happened before, where, in the last 5 years, I have literally knitted just a little bit, sometimes a lot, but at least some every single day. And somehow in the last week or two, it's been tricky. And there were times when I did not even grab it at all. And I can tell you 100% that I'm feeling that. I am feeling like it's missing. And I know that this is exactly why. It calms me down. I can tell when I have a stressful moment, if I reach for my project and I just knit for a little while, it calms me down. And I did not even know that this was a thing years and years ago when I first learned how to knit. It is such an amazing thing that you can just take it, start knitting, feel the benefit, and feel so much better. Okay. Second benefit, knitting helps boost your mood. It's also in line with what I was just talking about. It's amazing. Let's call it the knitter's high. The runner's high, right? Not so sure about that one. I'm not a runner. I like walking a lot, which also boosts my mood. So maybe there's a connection there. But let's talk about how knitting boosts your mood. Research shows that creative and repetitive activities like knitting can actually release feel-good chemicals in your brain. Serotonin and dopamine. Those are the two chemicals, the two hormones that are released. And it's a natural mood boost, or what I like to call the knitter's high. It can actually help ease anxiety and combat feelings of depression. I mean, how amazing is that? And it is all rooted in science. So this is not just you might feel this way. No. This is actually really proven to work. On top of that, there is so much joy in seeing your actual progress. So not only the actual movement and, the repetitive activity, the creativeness about it is what makes your mood, or boosts your mood, but it's also just watching your project come together. It might be the first few rows of a scarf or the last few rows of a completed project. I mean, just creating this meaningful thing with your own hands gives you this sense of accomplishment, and it is so empowering and such a great reminder that even in the crazy chaos of daily life, or whatever season you might find yourself in as a mom right now, you can carve out time to create something really nice that you can feel so proud of and just look at and just feel that joy of, wow, I actually did that. I actually made that. I think those two things are so easily overlooked because, we as moms and in general, just as humans nowadays, we just rush through our accomplishments so quickly. We don't even pause to really think about what we have just completed, what we've done, what we've accomplished. So this is really helpful. And just in a recent episode, it was right after Christmas. I'm going to find I don't remember the number of the episode, but I will put it in the show notes for sure. But we talked about keeping a knitting journal. And that's in line with this very concept where you pause long enough to actually look at something that you've made, that you've created with your hands, with your needles, and you celebrate and you actually bask in that joy of having accomplished something and that pride that comes along with that. So go back and listen to that episode if you want to kind of dive deeper into this concept of creating and keeping a knitting journal with your projects. Definitely check the show notes for the link to that episode. Okay, and the third benefit of knitting is that it creates a calming routine. So knitting can help you establish a routine that you can look forward to. And I think that is such a big deal, especially in, a very hectic and chaotic life. Sometimes it can feel unpredictable, but if you know that you have this little ritual that happens every day or maybe even twice a day, and you know relatively exactly when it's going to come around, it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you something that you can rely on, even if everything else feels sort of out of control, which we all have been there. That we may not all be in that kind of season of life where everything is like super chaotic, but some of us are. And it can also just be in a stressful time when you're like, okay, it is very busy, but you can carve out 10 minutes. Maybe it's shorter than usual. And you can sit down and be like, okay, I'm doing this right now. It doesn't matter what happens around me. I know this is going to feel good. And just looking forward to that for the day can really change the game. And what's really cool about knitting, the act of knitting itself is a grounding practice because it's repetitive, it's soothing, and it gives you that space to slow down and kind of reconnect with yourself because you're not you're not in your phone, you're not on social media, you're not comparing to anything. You're just sitting there and you're doing something for yourself and you're creating something. And it has such a different kind of feel and different impact on our well-being than most other things that we're doing, right? Over time, this routine that you create for yourself with this craft, and again, as short as it needs to be. If you have a half an hour or an hour to dedicate to it every day, wonderful. If you only have 10 minutes and it's in your car, who cares? Do it anyway, right? This routine that you're creating becomes your go-to whenever you need to step back from the craziness, from the hustle, from the noise of daily life. And it's this simple but powerful way to manage your stress and feel just more centered. So I encourage you to truly kind of pick up this routine, right, for your knitting, not just do it like, whenever I remember it, which in the beginning may not be the case. It depends. If you really are, new to knitting and you're trying to get into it, you might be super excited and you are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back to this. Or, it might be you might be thinking, oh gosh, I just don't have time for this. And then it just continues to go on the back burner, right? And you're not really making the time to actually learn the craft. So you never really get the benefits of it. So I highly encourage you, wherever you are, in whatever stage of knitting you are, and even the seasoned knitters in our community, they tell me all the time, like, oh, and I just didn't get to it today, or like, I haven't knitted in such a long time, but I really want to get back to it. This is a practice in itself, is to put it on your schedule and make time for it. We talk about this all the time here on the podcast, and it's something that is always worth repeating. Make the time for this craft. You have to make the time if you want to reap the benefits. So let's recap really quickly the three ways that knitting really supports your mental health in very big ways. So number one, it can provide a mindful focus to quiet your mind and reduce your stress. Number two, it can boost your mood with feel-good chemicals and the sense of accomplishment. So it's twofold. And the third one is it creates a calming routine that can help you feel more grounded in the chaos of your daily life. So as we continue into 2025, we're only at the beginning. It's barely going to be February as as this episode is releasing. I sure hope that these benefits do inspire you to make knitting a part of your self-care routine, even if it's just a few minutes here and there. Don't be like me in the last week and neglect it entirely. But just for the record, I was traveling and I literally did not have the space to actually take my knitting. And I was torn between a book and my knitting, and I just couldn't, I honestly couldn't decide. But in the end, my Kindle was a little bit less space taking. So I ended with that. And I was really sad later that I didn't have my knitting with me. So don't be like me. Even if it's just a few minutes here and there, incorporate it into your day. And, on a normal day or in my normal weeks, I incorporate it every single day. I already knit a little bit today, and I plan on knitting more later on. And it's always fun to have multiple projects going so that you prevent boredom. You've heard me say this before. So make this, or let this craft be this powerful way to care for your mind while you're also tapping into your creativity. If you have listened this far in this podcast, I am assuming that you are already knitting. If that's the case, I would love to invite you into our community where we are exchanging, the creative things that we're working on, asking and answering questions, and just hanging out. You can find us on Facebook, but to get there, just go to the link, thenittingmamas.com/group, and it'll take you right to the Facebook group. You just have to request access and I will let you in. And if you have listened this far and you are a complete beginner and you're like, wow, I really honestly don't know where to start, I have you covered too. You can download either the free cheat sheet, 3 things you need to start knitting and take the first step toward making this amazing hobby a part of your life. Or if you already know the basics, you can go ahead and grab your guide, which will take the overwhelm out of everything. And it'll take you from, I have no idea where to start, to look at what I made. So let's do either one wherever you are finding yourself. And you can find the cheat sheet at thenittingmamas.com/start. And you can find the guide at thenittingmamas.com/guide. I hope I see you on the next episode of Knit Your Stress Away. Thank you so much for tuning in today and have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on today's episode. I hope you're walking away with a bit more inspiration and a few ideas to make your self-care a priority. If today's chat gave you a little boost, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This helps other moms discover the podcast and start finding more calm and creativity in their day as well. And don't forget to join us over in the Knitting Mamas community on Facebook by going to thenittingmamas.com/group. Thanks again, and remember, you deserve time for yourself to recharge and feel your best. Catch you next time on the Knit the Stress Away podcast.